You know, I didn't think that when I started this retrospective, I'd have this much to complain about regarding the first Turtles series. Okay, admittedly, my beef isn't so much with the series itself, but with how the current generation in charge of our online archives can't get its facts straight. Really, I was floored to go on to Turtlepedia and see these mistakes. They somehow found out what Irma's last name was when I never knew it, but they can't double check and get the episode order right. And yes, I know they're going by the order on the DVD releases and some official list, and I still have no clue where that originated, but it's still wall-banging to read the episode descriptions and see things like, this episode was clearly meant to be the season premiere, but didn't air there for some unknown reason. Yes, it did! I saw it! Almost every episode on Saturday morning since 1990. Don't you guys locate people to double check this information? But more on that later. Prior to the premiere of Season 6, a 1-hour primetime special aired in late August titled Planet of the Turtleoids, as the Turtles defeat a creature named Tattoo, which was somehow mutated from a hamster to a human and changed back from getting electrocuted. Shredder and Krang try to make more mutants, resulting in a bull and a mole named Ground Chuck and Dirtbag. Those two and the Turtles are taken by an alien turtle named Karma, who needs their help in solving a little problem. A two-headed dragon monster named Herman terrorizing his people. Shredder, meanwhile, takes advantage of the Turtles' absence to build a new destructive force with the help of his new robot Chrome Dome. And his new weapon of destruction is the Technodrome Compact model. Well, I'm guessing it gets better gas mileage and is easier to park. And after my previous ranting, I have to admit, this is the one episode I didn't see in its original run. Heck, I never saw this until it was packaged in with the DVD release of the final season of the series. To me, it seems airing it made little sense, given that primetime animated specials were all but done away with back at this time. And yeah, it does come off as yet another attempt to shoehorn in as many characters as possible to justify their action figures, but I will say it does clear up a lot of plot holes I saw in some future episodes. The 6th season officially started with the first week to feature 2 Shredder and Krang episodes. The first is Leonardo is Missing, where Leo goes off on his own without telling anyone, leaving the other turtles to have to find him. Shredder takes advantage of this by using Krang's holographic cloaking machine, which has been upgraded to a compact model, to disguise Bebop and wreak havoc. But the others quickly discover the ruse and find out Leo left to help out a race of dinosaurs that live at the Earth's core and save endangered species. Well, there was an episode from Season 3 that featured dinosaurs living around the Earth's core, but don't ask me when they got the ability to talk and use technology. And again, yes, I will not retract this. This was the first episode of this season. Don't believe any so-called lists. Heck, the Season 6 post on Turtlepedia might be its worst because it lists the season as airing single episodes weekly. It didn't. It was the same 1-hour, 2-episode format from the previous years on CBS. Nothing had changed yet. That leads to Rock Around the Block, where Krang enlists General Trag to take out the Turtles with a ray that animates rock, while they gain control of a space laser that can cut the Technodrome free of the ice.
And yes, I'll admit, this climax is one of the weakest premises imaginable. It's introduced at the start with this whole woo-wee principle where doing nothing turns your enemy's efforts against him. Instead, the turtles just sit around and supposedly will Bebop and Rocksteady to screw up and make the laser send them splashing into the ocean. Uber lame. I will say the other episodes had eclectic storylines.
Eclectic? Jeez.
Frankenstein Lives had Krang's android body go berserk thanks to Bebop and Rocksteady putting in the wrong chip, and Michelangelo ends up stopping its destruction through the use of his video game. Yeah, video games actually saved the day in this episode. Take that, Jack Thompson!
I'll admit one of my favorites of this season was Super Irma, where Irma's Halloween costume got reverse magnetized, allowing her to lift up any metal object and giving her the belief that she has superpowers. Yeah, maybe she didn't know exactly what was going on, which made her look a bit foolish, but it was nice to see that she could have some confidence in herself and what she's capable of doing with that. Just keep that in mind for a future episode. Not that every episode had a spectacular storyline. Adventures in Turtle Sitting rehashed that old story from back in Season 4, Part 1, where the turtles got turned back into kids. And yes, this is the episode with the storyline that topped Phalus's list of stupidest moments. Krang's plan to eliminate the entire crime syndicate of the city by luring them to a phony treasure island and having it float away with helium-filled weather balloons. Because it's not like these crime bosses wouldn't have air vehicles that could have rescued them from the island, like the ones many of them arrived to the island on! But I will say I like the way this thing ended, to stick it to anyone who thought that this version's April was a dimball.
You repaired the rotor blade?
Hey, Donatello's not the only one who can fix things.
The Sword of Yurikawa had the turtles having to track down the guy who stole a magic sword in order to impress Splinter, and it turns out the thief was Splinter himself. Because apparently in the Turtles universe, it's okay to commit breaking and entering and theft as long as you're doing it to teach your students something and you give the item back in the end. Shrika's Revenge was an interesting story in which Krang is confronted by one of his old partners in crime, a female space pirate named Shrika. Hey, it's like Krang said in an earlier episode, he may be an evil, tyrannical megalomaniac, but he's equal opportunity! As for the secondary episodes, it was pretty clear the writers were starting to realize they were running out of ideas for extra villains. As a result, they brought back Professor Sofo in the episode where Vernon's nephew invents a device that pulls the Earth closer to the sun. Yeah, that made Phalus's list as well as Slash the evil turtle from Dimension X, who in this new episode had been given a boost to his intelligence, turning him into a mad scientist that wanted to turn everyone on Earth into a turtle. Though I will say I liked the message that was delivered in the final episode. Leonardo is forced to confront his fear of snakes. Yeah, don't ask me how a turtle becomes afraid of a fellow reptile, but still, it was a very good episode to talk about how to use courage to overcome your fears. Overall, after the disappointment of Season 5, 6 did seem to pick things back up a bit. It may have started on a really stupid note, but I give the writers credit for improving things by either introducing new characters or giving secondary ones a moment in the spotlight. But as we begin to cross over into Season 7, it's pretty clear the hints were there that changes were on the horizon. And we'll get into that right after this.
So one question I had during these seasons, how did the Technodrome go from being underwater below the Arctic to being what looked like a few miles off the coast of Manhattan Island? I'm just gonna say Krang tried to drive it all the way back to the city, but going up against the water pressure and the poor traction of the ocean floor drained the Technodrome's power. Again. And you might also wonder how they keep getting such good TV reception, no matter what part of the world or other galaxy they're in. But given that this show gave us modern day cell phones before they were actually invented, it figures Dimension X technology perfected satellite TV reception. At any rate, by this year it was pretty clear the Turtles show was stuck between a rock and a hard place, with the parent groups on one side complaining about how violent the show was, and the 90s generation wanting it to become darker. I get the feeling the season 7 premiere was kind of a take that to both sides. Night of the Dark Turtle saw Donatello get zapped and become a much more darker version of himself, turning him into this dark vigilante that basically wants to do away with Shredder altogether. That led to this moment. Yep, the Turtles actually have to save Shredder's life. And I'm sure there were more than a few viewers who wondered why they would do such a thing, but that's what real heroes do! I also suspect that the show's producers feared this year might be the Turtles' last go-round, especially since network commitments to Saturday morning cartoons was dropping fast, which may have been a reason James Avery parted ways with the show a couple of episodes into this season. I think it was Jim Cummings that would voice the Shredder for the rest of this season. As such, the writers seem to really just go all out with these episode stories, especially to tie up certain plot threads. The Legend of Koji has the Turtles traveling back to ancient Japan to keep the Shredder from destroying Splinter's ancestor and thus his family line. And as I mentioned before, this is the episode that finally did get the concept of Japanese names right in some way by revealing that Splinter's ancestor was named Hamato Koji, while the Shredder's ancestor was named Oroku Sanchu. Well, better late than never, I guess. In addition to bringing back the Neutrinos for one last season, the show also brought back Karma the Space Turtle for one final time to finish up his saga. But the big one may have been Night of the Rogues, where Shredder actually gets almost all of the Turtles' old foes to team up with one another against them. He brings together the Rat King / Leatherhead Tempestra. Wait, Tempestra? How the heck did they get Tempestra back? Yeah, I'm sorry I forgot to mention this episode from Season 4, but Tempestra was a video game villain that got brought to life from a power surge that Leonardo and the Turtles zapped back into the game at the end. Where in the heck did Shredder bring her back? Oh, and we also introduced a Scumbug and Anthrax, who we never saw in previous episodes. And also returning was Chrome Dome, which again makes more sense now that I actually saw the first Turtleoid episode. To counteract this rogues gallery, Splinter quickly starts recruiting some of the Turtles' old friends.
Do you have any way of reaching Casey Jones?
Yeah, I've got his phone number, but...
What? So April and Casey are dating in this series? Yeah, I gotta say, the Turtles version of the Justice League was pretty weak compared to its own Legion of Doom, but that might be the same for a lot of series like this. Revenge of the Fly gave us Baxter Stockman one last time, and this one seemed to push aside that last episode like it never happened. Not only is Baxter's computer back, but as a commenter pointed out, he seems to have reverted back to his old addlepated self while he came off as slightly more intelligent back in Landlord of the Flies. At any rate, he starts mutating everyone into insects just as Shredder was finally repairing his old retro mutagen ray, which looks a lot like the Mutazoo ray from Bye Bye Fly now, and the Turtles have to swipe it to restore everyone to normal before they destroy it. And this, I'm sure, got a lot of people up in arms by shouting, "Why the hell didn't they use it to change Splinter back first?" However, I maintain that this makes sense. Remember, back in Splinter No More, Splinter had decreed that not only had he gotten used to his mutant form, but he preferred it. So, yeah, not changing it back is basically what he would have wanted. Invasion of the Krangazoids saw Krang make clones of himself, and this one answered the question of, what did Krang look like before he lost his body when he got banished back to Dimension X?
We shall be your masters now.
Although the question of why he was banished in the first place is never answered. The Archie published comic suggested Dimension X's ruling class banished all warlords, but given that comic spun off in a different direction from the show, I can't just say that's canon for this series. The season's final week flip-flopped the episode format, and for good reason. Combat Land was just a throwaway episode about these theme park designers trying to use robots to blow up the sewers or some crap, but it was just taking up space for the first part. The season actually concluded with Shredder Triumphant. Shredder and the Goons used the same ploy they pulled back in the big ripoff, where they distract the Turtles with a phony break-in, while Krang steals a new power cell for the Technodrome that allows it to come to the surface.
We all know the drill by now. We break into the Technodrome, fight our way past the foot soldiers, disconnect the power device, and escape with it.
Except for one thing. This time, we were ready for you.
Shredder, we've done it! The city is ours!
And now for the crowning touch. I'm going to dispose of you wretched reptiles forever by sending you into Dimension X!
With the Turtles out of the way, it looks like Krang and Shredder finally have their control over the world. But they forgot about one tiny furry problem.
You savages! Leave them alone!
Lesson number 1 in cartoons. Never underestimate the old guy. And I gotta love this part where Irma finally gets hold of a blaster and turns into freaking Rambo.
Not so fast, alien scum!
My robot body is not working!
And naturally, the Turtles know the perfect way to get themselves back home and stop Shredder.
You sure haven't beaten us, Creepazoid. All you did was stuff us through a portal because you're too chicken to fight us.
Wretched reptiles! I'll destroy you!
There's only one way you can do that. And that's to take us on, mono a turtlo.
That suits me just fine. All right, Turtles, come out and fight!
You bet we will.
Isn't that Krang's holographic cloaking device?
Yeah.
Not so fast, Shredhead!
You are doomed to defeat, Shredder. Lord Krang, where are you going with that prisoner?
Wow, dude, I thought...
I'd go for a pizza.
It's a trick!
Technodrome! Oh no, no.
Get in, quick!
No Technodrome, no Rock Warriors, no Foot Soldiers! I'll pay those turtles back for this if it's the last thing I ever do!
It looks like the Shredder and Krang have finally been neutralized, but Splinter warns them that this might not be the end.
They still have Krang's know-how, and Shredder's cunning, and Bebop and Rocksteady's strength. I'm certain we'll be hearing from them again soon.
I gotta say, Season 7 really kicked things back into high gear and might have been the show's best season since its first year on CBS. There were a lot of storylines that got decent conclusions, and Shredder Triumphant remains one of my favorite episodes of the entire series. If this had been the way that the series came to an end, it would have gone out with a bang. But it turns out this wasn't the end, and that might not have been the best thing for the show. When we come back next time, we'll get into the episodes and seasons that truly had a large number of the fan base seeing red.